seconded by Daryl. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Next we have Resolution 2020-23. This is to establish an economic development target area. We have Gary Smith with us, who is from Reedy Financial and has been working on this project with us a little bit as well. We already have a pretty large section of this economic development target area. It includes most of the northwest end of Veterans Way. I believe you all extended it 2019, Ron, is that right? 2019, that was added to. We're adding to it again. It allows us to do some things with the state for future projects. It's not there's no money or anything with it, it's just a designation. So is there a motion to approve 2020-23?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Daryl, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Next we have 2020-22, which is regarding the proposed lease, and I'll ask Gary to come up and sort of talk a little bit about this. This is part of our remodel project that's ongoing. Welcome back.
Hi. So thank you, Mayor. Again, I'm Gary Smith of Reedy Financial Group. A little bit of background on myself. I'm a registered municipal advisor of Securities and Exchange Commission, which allows me to have these conversations with you. So, as you guys know, we provide a multitude of services for the city, long-term planning, some RDC work, municipal advising, and some other consulting work. So we're in a unique position, I think, to discuss a specific project and also the funding mechanism behind it. So just as a project introduction, we're looking at potentially issuing this through what's known as a building corporation. So Indiana law allows for the establishment of a building corporation. Essentially what that acts is a conduit for cities to issue debt for public facilities projects that will then subsequently be leased by the city. So it's incredibly common throughout the state. If you're doing any sort of new building project or any sort of renovation project, that you issue it through a building corporation through a lease. It's very standard practice. So what's in front of you today is kind of kicking off that entire process. Called the Resolution of Common Council on the leasing of certain city hall facilities, reimbursing certain expenditures, and taking other action regarding the proposed lease. So again, it's a city hall renovation project. It's the first step in kicking off the formal process to enter into a lease with the building corporation, and for the building corporation to subsequently then issue municipal bonds, which then will be what's repaid back through the lease payments of the city. So keep talking notes on the resolution in front of you. It's a request by the council to enter into a lease with the building corporation. It also allows reimbursement of project expenditures prior to the issue of bonds. So it's not uncommon leading up to a bond issue that you may have various costs of issuance, whether it be architecture fees or advising fees or what have you, sometimes property acquisitions, appraisals, things like that. This would get, if you were paying those fees out of pocket, that would give you the ability to reimburse yourself those cash flows once those bonds do issue. What's more, the resolution, it has parameters in it, so 5.7 million would be the limits on the issue for the resolution with a 20-year term. I do think the 5.7 is a little bit conservative. We are anticipating it to be in the low fives. But this early on in the process, before we go to bids, a multitude of things can happen, so it's better to allow yourself a little bit of flexibility in the front end there. But again, we don't anticipate it to be that much. Again, proposed structuring through a lease with the building corporation, and the lease payments are to be made by available revenues of the city. So that's what's really interesting and cool, in my opinion, about this project is it's being able to be funded by existing revenues of the general fund. So there is no new tax increase or anything of the sorts. Just general appropriation of the general funds is what's going to be absorbing these lease payments. So no increases in taxes. There's a few other communities that have structured this way, and I think it's a really good way to go about doing this. The next part is there's another document should be in front of you, the approval of the form of lease. So the next steps in this process will be the building corporation will meet and approve their bylaws and the issuance of bonds. The council will then hold a public hearing and consider a resolution, so that'll be at your November meeting, and then execute the lease. So what's in front of you is the form of that lease, and essentially just kind of approving that to move forward. That just generally, or not generally, very specifically outlines the lease between the city and the building corporation. It will define the max bond par amount of 5.7. We have a max annual lease payment of $440,000 that's included in there. Again, that's a little bit conservative. 20-year term. There's interest rate parameters in there, but that's what's in front of you for consideration today.
This allows us just to start that process. We would, like Gary said, we will have the lease and the building corp and everything ready to go for the November meeting. We'll actually agree to all of that. This just lets us get started on this. We do have some out-of-pocket expenses that we've already incurred through DLZ, so it's good to get all of this paperwork in. It's been, Gary and I are on the phone a couple times a week because between this and another thing we're working on is constant. The timelines are 2 pages long, so we're just trying to keep everything on track. But any questions for Gary? If not, we take a motion to approve 2020-22, which is a resolution.
Real quick there.
Sure.
This is all in regards to proposed renovations to City Hall.
Right.
Let's say when it comes in, these bids come in, as a council, we decide not to move forward with the project. We'll see the numbers. Does it get disbanded without them?
That'd be a good question for Gary.
Yeah, so you can move forward all the way up to bond sale and elect not to move forward with the selling of bonds. At that point, you would only be out the cost of issuance that brought you to that point. So yeah, that's a good point. You know, it has happened before. It's not super common. That's why we're a little bit conservative in these estimates. But every so often with, 2020, 2019 being a little bit uncertain with contractors and bidding, potentially, you could go to bid and bids could come back higher. And then at some point, maybe it's a little bit more than we thought. Maybe you want to go back to the drawing board. That does happen and you have that flexibility. So in short, yes, you have tons of flexibility all the way up until you sign documents to say these bonds are being sold.
And we're not entering into any agreements with contractors until the December 2nd. Or December 2nd.
Yeah, and any bond attorney would tell you as well, whenever you're accepting a bid, it's pending financing approval and securing financing as well. So there's always that in there also. So lots of outs, I think.
Yeah, and we wrote that with the lease from the county and the commissioners, the commissioners agreed this morning to let us use the old Washington School space we need for our share of the utilities. Chris helped draft that lease as well. And it has a big paragraph in there, this whole project doesn't go through, they don't get their money. So I think we're trying to structure that all the way along. We have every confidence in the world that we would like to get it done, obviously, but
Some more insurance helps.
to answer your question, Kevin. Anything else? If not, we take motion to approve 2020-22.
So moved.
Moved by Jamie, seconded by Kevin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Thank you very much, Gary. We appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Safe ride back.
Thanks, sir.
A couple quick things here at the end. Citywide trick or treat hours. This has been a popular topic over the last couple weeks, and we typically set our hours. Halloween is on a Saturday this year, and I think I wanted your input as well. The CDC has put out their recommendations, which you all have a copy of. Kristen's working on getting on the website. I talked about WCRE about it. They are not a fan of the trunk or treat style events. They recommend against even traditional trick or treating. We are not going to be able to stop that, nor do I really think it's maybe our place to do that. If people want to engage in individual activity, that's their game. The question to you all is, do you want to establish hours this year? With it being on a Saturday, maybe we could extend it out a little bit more. I think traditionally it's 5 to 7. Maybe we could do it 3 to 7 or 4 to 7. Encourage residents, if they don't want to be bothered, to put something very clear on their door. Like, we do not want, please do not knock because of this. So I sort of wanted all of your opinions. Do you have an opinion on that?
Just say maybe we can encourage people that want to participate to put a porch light on, and encourage people if they don't have a porch light on, pass on by, I guess, but I don't know if, I'm in favor of even doing, it's on a Saturday, maybe we do 3 to 6 or something. It's getting darker out. It's gonna be a Saturday night, and just.
I was a kid, we not till 11.
Fairly low, now, it's 7 o'clock, it's still 1 o'clock up here, so. I just say we're 3 to 7.
3 to 7.
Like the neighborhood was gonna try.
Everybody okay with that?
Daylight hours.
3, okay, so we will do 3 to 7 as our official hours, and we will do our due diligence to post safety guidelines per the CDC's guidance. And then we are hosting early voting here at City Hall this year. They needed some extra space to spread out, and we were glad to be a community partner with the clerk's office on that. So over the next several weeks, starting tomorrow at 8 a.m., we will be the host of early voting in the gym. Our employees have been asked to park across the street. We received permission from those landowners to have people park over there, so they'd be parking in the back. People can come in the front, and we prefer you come in the back, but you can get in either way. It will be 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, and then there will be a couple Saturdays at the end. The clerk, the Decatur County Clerk's office is in charge of voting, so any questions can be directed towards them. And we encourage everyone to get out and do that. We also, this week, welcomed a new police officer, Caitlin Jackowitz, joined us. So we are glad to have her on board, and if you see her out and about, be sure to introduce yourself. We still have the 2 officers from earlier this year and her that we've not done the sort of formal, big swearing in, community gatherings, families, things like that. We've been trying to wait on COVID a little bit, but I think the 2 new guys from earlier this year and Caitlin are getting along well, so if you see her out and about, that's who she is. Anything, or Jamie, any updates from the services that we did not cover?
Police chief and fire chief came and talked to us tonight about the same thing they talked to us about. Jeff Smith, we approved the purchase of a new vehicle for $21,795 for Jeff. Ron came and asked, and basically we approved to enter into an agreement to do a stormwater utility rate study. That's actually gonna be paid by wastewater for that one. Josh Tressler came and we approved adding a duplicate internet service provider. We'll actually have ETC and Comcast for basically public safety. Christian Rust came and talked to us about the fire contract, which we talked about as well tonight.
Okay, anything else to come from council? If not, take a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Everyone have a good week.